Welcome back to the Frizz and the Grizz podcast with your hosts, Trudeau and D.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Frizz and the Grizz. It's your boy, Trudeau, as always, joined by my good friend, D. Frizz himself. What's up, buddy?
What it do, baby? And as we say every week, happy fucking Monday.
Happy Monday, D, my friend. It's good to hear the music again.
I'm saying, I was just thinking that it's like you can actually like vibe out. I'm not the only one dancing and acting a fool online. You can actually like contribute. So I appreciate you back at your crib. I know you were away last week for reasons
Yeah.
out of our control, but I'm glad that you're back on the ones and twos, man.
The scenery is not as cool in the back as the courtyard by Mary. I got to upgrade my shit.
I mean, I like the diplomas, but there was, I think when I first sat down, like you could see my reaction. I was just like, "Oh, you got a new crib," and you're like, "I'm at a hotel." Like, oh, well, that explains everything.
It's good to be back. It's good to see you folks watching. And if you're listening on Tuesday on podcast, thanks for listening to us. Yeah, this should be a fun show. We kind of stay away from the NFL stuff last week because we knew that the season was going to be ending this weekend, and we were going to have a lot of football stuff to talk about. So it should be interesting. I think that we're going to take an approach of like a macro level, just because this is the last time we're realistically going to be able to talk about what happened in the season, because after this week, it's all playoffs, all the games recap. So we want to take a break to kind of, I don't know, take in what was the 2022 NFL season, right, D?
Yeah, I'm all for it. Like I said, this is, I guess, the encompassing of the entire season, right? So it's always good that, yeah, like we got a whole new season coming, obviously, with the playoffs being here. Teams that didn't make it on the outside looking in, sorry for you, but maybe next year. So it's good to not give out awards because nothing's been won. You're right. Championships haven't been won just because you made the playoffs, but at least make some acknowledgments of those that had a good season, an okay season, some surprises, some disappointments, some areas of, we are who we thought they were, all that type of stuff.
Oh, I didn't have you with
Didn't have it. Yeah, you're good. You're
They
good.
are
You're
who
good.
we thought they were.
Whenever we have the opportunity to explain it, we will. So I feel like this is a good way to at least get the bow on top of the 2023 NFL season, so we can get prepared for the playoffs.
For sure. And before we get started with the sports stuff, just curious, have you ever been to New York City, D?
A few times. Most times it's been driving through, but I've been through the city. I mean, to the actual city once. It was a very long time ago.
Okay, I did my first trip this weekend. I was in New York over the weekend. Yeah, we went to go see a play. Went to see Hamilton, and I'm telling you, you laugh, but you should watch it because that shit was dope, man. Do you know about Hamilton? Like what the deal is with that?
I feel like we all had to read it or like listen to it when we were in high school. Isn't that something like playwright for literature?
Musical. No, it's a new musical.
Okay,
It came
then
out in
absolutely
2018.
not.
It's like hip hop rap musical, pretty much, and it was actually pretty dope. It's about like the founding fathers and stuff, and they had like a rap battle like twice in the musical itself. It won a shit ton of awards. It's actually really, really good. My first time seeing any sort of musical, high school musical or whatever. This is my first time. It was really good. Definitely recommend checking it out.
I can only think of like Othello. Like when you hear theater stuff, I only think of like Shakespeare, Othello type. It's the only thing I can think of playwright wise. But I mean, hey man, to each their own. If that's if you can do that for the weekend and actually enjoy yourself, I'm glad you could, because I don't know if I could.
And I've always been kind of like I'm not a hater of New York City, but like a dismisser. Like, well, what's so great about New York City? New York City is fucking awesome, man. It is the true melting pot of America.
I beg to differ on that one, because there are some cities that you can't find one person that's from the actual city compared to New York, where there's a lot of New Yorkers in New York. Maybe our terms of melting pots are completely different.
I meant like, dude, if you're walking around Boston, it's literally like 90% white people.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
It's just like so diverse. Like you got so many different cultures. Like it's pretty cool, man. I love that city now. Like I wish I could live there, but it's too damn expensive.
Very expensive. The only time that I went, unfortunately, I was too young to actually enjoy it. So it's definitely something that I wouldn't mind going back, spending a weekend like you're saying. But yeah, it's been a very long time. I think I was like 18 when I went.
Yeah, go check out a play, man. Go check out a play.
Yeah, eat a vegetable too.
I eat a vegetable too, for sure. But let's get into the actual football stuff. And I think where I wanted to start with, and I think you agreed with me, is kind of like just overall arching takeaways from this NFL season. And I had one I wrote down first and foremost in big letters, and it was coaching matters.
Oh, that's a good one.
And I say that because, if you think of like the NBA, right, you can throw any ragtag coach sitting there. But as long as you have the players, you have your star players, you're all set. But it's so weird in the NFL because we've seen coaches come in and completely change things, and we've seen coaches leave and things completely change. So, like, for example, just looking at the AFC East, right? Miami gets a new coach. Granted, they didn't have the season they expected, but they become an explosive offense. New England loses Josh McDaniels. Their quarterback just goes to shit. There's just so many examples of how coaching influenced this season, right? The New York Giants, a laughing stock, became a formidable team. And that was one of my biggest takeaways, that coaching absolutely matters. Jacksonville Jaguars, laughing stock last year. They get Doug Peterson. They look competent. They're in the playoffs. Just example after example after example of how a coach has come in and completely recrafted an organization. And I don't know if it's either like sometimes it's scheme in like a McDaniels thing leaving New England, or just being a leader in like the case of the Detroit Lions, where Dan Campbell's not your X's and O's guy, but he is a true manager of men and inspirer. So I don't know. I think this season, above all others, really has exemplified how much coaching matters. And then one last point that I can't believe I forgot this one. A guy that has been working magic in San Francisco.
Yes.
Shanahan, they wanted to start with Trey Lance. He gets out in the second game, I believe. You get Jimmy G, right, is your backup plan. He goes out. You have Brock Purdy now, and like the machine keeps on rolling because he has a system built there that can really take his players and make them shine. So for me, like, the story of this season is just how important good coaching is in the NFL.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. That's a great talking point for it. I think it started a couple of years ago with the Shanahans and McVays, the younger, new blood that came in from college to try to give like a spurt to the NFL, more so because of the offense, right? Like we saw different types of offenses run, and it's changed the way that people are drafting. It's changing the way that people are playing games. I hate it because it's ruining the game in a certain way. Analytics are becoming a big thing, where coaches are able to rely on statistics and tendencies compared to just the feeling of the game. But you hit that right on the head with teams that are just, I would say, like inspired. My number one is definitely going to be the Lions. I feel like for them to be as in the dumps as they have been for 20 something years, and then Dan Campbell comes in, and I know I listened to a lot of radio when I was up north, and there was a lot of radio stations that crapped on Dan Campbell because he was the hoorah former defensive lineman. Like, that's not going to work in the NFL. And then you got people like Jamal Williams that, get cut from the Packers. He's like, I'm going to give my life for this team, right? Like you got people like the quarterback, Jared Goff, who's on his, last legs and he's probably not going to make the NFL again, right? If it doesn't work in Detroit, probably not going to get another job, and he revitalized his career. So like it does matter in the NFL. It hurts a team that doesn't have good coaching, right? Like you can win without good coaching, but you sure as hell will lose with bad coaching. And it's like it's shown in the last couple of years that coaches can get hired and it changes an entire program.
Well, like unlike the NBA where you have 5 guys on a court, and if 2 of the 5 are very, very good, you can make it work. In the NFL, you have 22 guys that play offense and defense, right? And you're not going to have great players across the board with those 22. So having a coach that can scheme correctly and cover up your weaknesses, or, it's a long season and you're tired and you've gotten your ass kicked and it's week 14, and having a coach like Dan Campbell who can inspire you and get the best out of you, it does matter in this sport. And I know we talked before the show, and we can get into it afterwards, but I just think that you need to have almost like a short leash with these coaches, where even if they don't have the ideal roster, if they're not doing anything to maximize what you have in front of you, he's not the guy. Case in point, Robert Saleh. I don't want to, I know we want to talk about him at some point, but I know you said that, he was dealt a shitty hand with Zach Wilson. To me, a guy like that, you can see he's not maximizing his players. Granted, they did have a decent defense this year, but you need to make sure that the coach and any manager in life really can take what they have and get the best out of them. And I like a coach like Saleh. To me, it's like, you've had 3 years. You're not making the players better. You can only do what you've been given. So it's time to try something different.
I feel like no matter what, we're going to disagree on this one because I'm going to give you another name and you're going to say, well, look at the season he's had. I feel like Salah's situation without having the quarterback, for me, it's tough to get rid of a coach or even just say, like, hey, you're not maximizing the talent. Like, he's got a top 10, maybe even top 5 defense that are playing their asses off night in and night out, where I think for 5 weeks straight, they had given up less than 14 points and still lost, right?
Mhm.
So like the defense is keeping them in it. He's able to get that part of the team to show up. Had a really, really good running back, Brees Hall, that was dominating the first half of the season. And then when he went down, you had to rely on the quarterback. And we all saw what happened. Like I know I had high hopes for the kid out of BYU, Zach
Zach
Wilson.
Wilson.
But like we know that he isn't it. He's not fit for the New York mentality style out there. So like I would more say that even though you're saying coaching matters and whatnot, I would say that's more of a situation for players. He's getting the most out of them, but there is a player holding them
Right.
back, then it would be him not getting the most out of them.
I guess I want to get to what Hip Hop Anonymous is saying because I did want to jump on that point and just shout out, like, if you guys are watching and you throw shit in the chat, we will respond to it because I want to get to his point. But just to finish what you were saying, you're saying he had an ideal situation with Brees Hall and everything was clicking on all cylinders. Anyone can be a leader when things are going right. It really shows what you got when things are shit's hitting the fan. How can you modify your strategy or rally the troops to make things work? And to me, that shows that he can't deal with that adversity, right? Coaches are always telling players to deal with adversity. You know, that's a big word in football locker rooms, adversity. Well, if you're the coach and adversity hits you, how are you going to modify your game plan and how you run the team? And clearly he was unable to do that. So for me, you got to go. And just to touch on Hip Hop Anonymous, said he's basically saying, McVay had a bad season. Now he's contemplating quitting. I thought he's not the guy everyone thought he was because he's the golden boy. For me, I don't think he's quitting because shit's hitting the fan and it's tough. The situation is shitty in LA. They have no draft picks. Their roster's old. Their depth's really thin. I think for him, it's like, do I sit here for a rebuild? Is it worth my time and everyone's time for me to be here? Or do I step away, clear my mind, get some time away from the game? Because he's gonna probably get paid to be like a color commentator and analyst, yeah, like you're saying, and he's gonna get paid way more, less stressful, and like come back in a few years after that situation's figured itself out, right?
Yeah. Before I get on the Rams, because I misstated, it wasn't the Jets offense. It wasn't the Jets defense. It was the Jets offense. So I misstated saying they gave up less than 17 per game. No, they scored less than 17
Yeah.
per game. So like that, I want to make sure that I correct that because I don't want to make it seem like they were world beaters and they were putting up that many points. With the McVay situation, and I understand the whole like contemplating quitting. The dealt hand was organization wanted to win a Super Bowl. So they sold their soul to win it. They got rid of 3 first-round draft picks. They brought in Stafford. They know that Donald was possibly on his way out. They brought in OBJ. You know what I'm saying? Like they brought in Von Miller. They got all of these older veterans to come together and try to win a championship. And they did. So now those older veterans don't have anything else to play for because they got their Super Bowl. Stafford's hurt, right? They went through 5 quarterbacks this season. OBJ never came back. They lost Robert Woods. Cooper Kupp got hurt. Their running back got hurt. Like that entire team from the Super Bowl game is completely different than week 17, week 18 in 2023. So like I wouldn't say that he's quitting because of like, he's not the guy that everybody expected him to be. That team is not the team that anyone expected to be historically the worst Super Bowl defending champion in the history of the NFL. And I'm not going to say that that's just coaching. That's a lot of players, especially when you have a revolving door of 5 people that played quarterback this season.
Yeah, and I think the quarterback situation just proves how much of a genius McVay still is, because, oh my God, why am I blanking on this?
We need to clip that one at some point.
Dude, get off my back. You're always one of forgetting names. I don't know why I'm dropping Baker Mayfield's name. I was just a little guy, but what he did with Baker Mayfield, the guy who's been cast off from several teams, right? It just goes to show that he can take trash and make it work. Because Baker Mayfield looked like Heisman Baker Mayfield, in those couple weeks with the Rams. So I think McVay still got it. I don't blame him for walking away. Like, it's a very stressful job. He's only 34 or something like that. He's very young. Don't burn yourself out, right? I know you talked last week about getting your busted ass out of an old job if it's burning you out.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a burnout job for the next couple of years. Rejuvenate yourself, get paid by probably Amazon or some shit trying to bolster up their broadcast team, and do what you got to do and come back.
One of the points before I go to mine, because I know this started with the Lions, and then we dipped into obviously getting to talk about the Rams. So thank you for the chat. I really appreciate it. You brought up Baker Mayfield, and we text thread earlier today that we saw online that Baker was the first player in the history to take out 4 teams in one season to keep them out of the playoffs. Started with the Browns, then the Rams, kicked out the Lions and the Panthers, all because of him. So he's technically got 4 teams eliminated from the playoffs. So, I mean, that takes some serious talent. Yeah, man, like, to be able to do that. But what I will say is, I know you were talking about, coaching mattering, and you can call it the hater in me. I don't care. I'm just sick of the Instagram quarterback, right? If that what was said, coaching matters. And I think what Brandon Staley is doing with the Chargers, he is literally a game away from being fired. If they don't advance in this playoff, if they lose and Herbert, S's the bed, they're in trouble, right? Like, because they have the talent. They are the opposite of the Jets. They are the opposite of the Lions. They have one of, if not the best offensive talents in the league. Receiving core, running back core, quarterback, right? And then if you look at the defense is pretty good too. And every year, this is the first time that they've made the playoffs. Herbert needs to show up, and Staley needs to show why he should keep his job. Because if he can't get the most out of that team, somebody can. That team needs to be a perennial powerhouse with all of the players that they have, and they're not.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that, because if you want to make a case for getting rid of Staley, it's because he's probably made he's super analytics guy. He's like the ultimate analytics guy. And I think I'm pro analytics, but I think he's just gone way over the top with some of the risk he's taken, and the risk calculus is a little off. But to the player perspective, or the player point you made, they have had a ton of injuries this year. Keenan Allen's missed, I think he missed like 9 or 10 games. I think Mike Williams was in and out of the lineup. They missed Joey Bosa on the defensive side. And I know that their quarterback Herbert has dealt with a rib injury for a portion of the year. He's been kind of like unwilling to hang in the pocket, and he's been getting rid of the ball quickly to avoid hits. So I think some of the struggles you can kind of put on injuries. And I mean, 10-7 is a pretty solid record. He's in the playoffs. I don't think he's at risk. But to your point, right? Some of the analytics stuff, he gets really cute sometimes, and he's going to eventually cost his team a big game in a big spot. On the flip side, he might do some crazy shit in the playoffs, and it might get them a win. So who knows?
I just think you just made a lot of excuses for why they have a 10-7 record. And none of them were good. None of them were good enough that you could get, like, you could find 5 other teams and like, oh yeah, he's fired because he's because of this.
I apologize. Because I just crushed Robert Saleh.
Yeah,
same shit, and I'm giving Staley a pass. So you're right. He needs to make it work.
The problem is, and like I get it, like I know, like, he has the talent, he has the skills. He's essentially the next Aaron Rodgers, right? Like, Justin Herbert can make any throw. He may ascend to be one of the better talented quarterbacks in the history of the league. 6'6", 220, 230. He can run. He's got an arm. He's accurate. He's got all of the tools, right? Essentially, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes combined into one. You may have Justin Herbert, but he doesn't win. And if we're going to get on people, and even with this 10-7 record, he still has a career under 500 record for wins. If we're going to get on other players that can't perform in the playoffs or they miss playoffs, we have to do the same thing for him. Just because he has the actual talent, you can't get a pass by that. Like, you have to be the guy that ascends your team when you have Eckler to hand it off, you have Keenan Allen and Mike Williams to throw it to when they are healthy. I didn't get that one shot. Yeah, that is another thing. We haven't talked coaches yet, but that is something that I have heard. But essentially, again, with the Chargers talk, like they have all of the tools. What's holding them back? Is it the quarterback or is the coach? It's got to be one or the
Not
other.
quarterback. I think your point, like, no offense, is asinine about the record thing, because wins are not a quarterback statistic.
Oh,
right?
missed me with that.
Wins are not a quarterback statistic. There are a lot of things that occur around the quarterback. If you have a shit offensive line, guess what? You ain't gonna win. Wins just are a byproduct of play. If you want to talk about his QBR or completion percentage or whatever statistic, I'll listen to you, but I'm listening to wins-loss records on a quarterback.
So let me find his record for one possession games, and then we can talk, because that is an opportunity for him to get the W.
Hey, man, you're the biggest LJ defender in here. We can talk about big wins if you want to get into that conversation.
He's got an MVP and he's got a couple of playoff wins. But yeah, we can go. I digress.
No, I think that those are a couple good points. Another big takeaway I wanted to throw out there. I forgot it already. But
it's twice.
Yeah, I know it's a weird day. But Mike Tomlin is one hell of a coach. That's all I wanted to say, dude.
So, man, don't give up my type of things. But yeah, I had two of these. Not to get to forget about what I'm in report is saying. Definitely a needle in the haystack, or like an area of either Dallas or LA. I think they both can benefit from a Sean Payton, especially being a Saints fan and whatnot. So I think that might be on the cusp. If they both perform poorly, expect Sean Payton to replace one of those two coaches. When it comes to, go ahead.
I remember my point. What I was going to say now. Another takeaway from the season, right? For me personally, is Joey Burrow has ascended to the status of that dude. He's in that dude tier.
If I could throw this list at you right now, I literally would, because you're literally getting just stop. So let me get these 2 points.
Tell the audience why Joey Burrow is the dude.
So before we get on, I'm not going to do that, because we already know that Joey Burrow is QB1. He always will be, being an LSU guy, the best quarterback in the history of quarterbacks. But I digress on that point. What I am going to say is Mike Tomlin, first point, Mike Tomlin, no matter who his team is, he's got to do his best to be a team to worry about, right? Like the Steelers are somebody that you'd never wanted to play, and they just found a way, like rookie quarterback, and they still found a way to at least compete.
Is it 16 now in a row?
Yeah.
Winning seasons.
And I mean, a couple Super Bowls to boot. So like, it's not like it's not winning football in Pittsburgh. Bad, tough situations, right? Tough breaks. We remember that they got knocked out of the playoffs by a play that like got stopped at the 1 yard line. Like that was a couple of years ago. But like my bigger point was going to be about, you said that coaching matters in the NFL. My point is that the NFL itself is in a really, really good standing for the next 5 to 10 years for young quarterback play. Dude, if you look at like where we're at right now, the league is going to be run, at least from my eyes, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joey Burrow. I think those three quarterbacks. What's up?
That's three. I mean,
yeah. Well, let me finish. Let me say those three are the top tier, right? That's tier one. Tier. Those three quarterbacks essentially are the ones that they will be perennial powerhouses no matter what talent they have on their team to elevate the Bengals, elevate the Bills, and elevate the Chiefs. Tier two, and because of what happened this season, Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert. The reason why I put Lawrence in that is because he got a coach. And look what happened, right? Like the Jaguars, I called it 8 weeks ago. I said, don't let this team get hot because they will be a team that you don't want to play in the playoffs. Justin Herbert, as much as I, crapped on him, right? I gave him a ton of shit. I will say that he's still tier two quarterback, right? He is a elevating type quarterback. And then the MVP of the NFL season, Jalen Hurts, literally took the entire Philadelphia Eagles, put them on their back and said, hey, just ride with me, run the RPOs, make it so that they don't know how to stop our offense. And clearly for all of those haters that said anybody can play in the Phillies offense, look what happened when he didn't play, right? It wasn't MVP style of gaming, I'll tell you that. And then tier three, just because of age and what happened this season, you can probably put a couple of other quarterbacks there. Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, Tua. Age, and they didn't get an actual full season. What I mean by this is if Lamar Jackson comes off of his injury next season, The Ravens are going to be a really good team. Deshaun Watson missed 10 weeks, 11 essentially weeks. And you could see the formula working between him and Amari Cooper with Nick Chubb in the backfield. And then Tua, when he was healthy, if he can come back the way that he's supposed to be, that Miami offense was literally one of, if not the most explosive offenses in the NFL for the first 10 weeks of the season.
That your tier 3 is basically for me the I don't know what to do with them tier, because any of those guys at any point could have looked like a top 5 quarterback this year, right? I mean, granted, Watson, he did not, but the first couple weeks, Lamar looked like he was gonna win MVP again. Tua had QBR for a while, and for different circumstances, all of them have had up and down seasons or have struggled. So I don't know what to do with your tier 3. I'm surprised you put Lamar in tier 3 because you gave me so much shit behind the scenes. We text during the week. This man gave me so much fucking shit for saying that Justin Herbert, and I told him I would take Justin Herbert, I would take Trevor Lawrence over Lamar Jackson long term, and he said I was bugging, and now he's putting them above Lamar Jackson. What are you doing right now, man?
So what I said, right, was the next 5 years where the league is going to be. Lamar in 5 years is going to be third tier because he's going to be older than Justin Herbert. But what I will do, if I need to win a Super Bowl this season, I'm 100% taking a healthy Lamar Jackson over a healthy Justin Herbert. So don't put words in my mouth when I say that. He is definitely the better quarterback for me, from my style of play, how I think quarterbacks would win a game. But I mean, everybody else has their ways of thinking. I put this based off of saying, I think the next 5 to 10 years, the league is in. For a lot of people that said that the NFL is down right now because scoring is down and there's more running involved, there's a really good wave of good quarterbacks. There's a really bad wave of terrible quarterbacks on the tail ends of their careers or just bad. But the top 10 younger quarterbacks, I think the league's in really good hands for the next couple of years.
Yeah, no, I'm with you in the fact that like all of the exciting quarterbacks are probably 26 and below. And someone was mentioning in the chat, Eamon, about the Eagles are leaking going to the playoffs, and I would just counter to say because they had no Justin Hurts. I love Minshew Mania.
Get his name right, Jalen.
Huh?
You said Justin Hurts.
Oh, Jalen. What am I, Justin Herbert? You got me with the Justin Herbert in my head. Yeah, Jalen Hurts. I love the Minshew Mania. It was fun. I love the stash, but he's just not that dude. I mean, the offense is structured to run RPOs with Hurts, and with him gone, obviously what they are built on is the RPO, and not being able to do that, obviously it showed. They dropped, I think, 3 out of 4 or 2 out of 3 at the end of the season. They're still a 1 seed, right? So I'm not too worried. You get a week to rest, they'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of go with that too. So I appreciate you speaking about the defense. What I would say is Jalen showed how important he was. Don't disrespect Uncle Rico. I mean, hey, Gardner Minshew, it was a great little stint, especially when he did his thing. He had his magic in Jacksonville. But we understand how true to the game Jalen Hurts is. And I mean, we were talking week 10, week 11, he's MVP. And then it just showed even more that they were a completely different team when he wasn't on the field. So I don't think they're leaking oil going into the season. I think it's more just wait till that man gets healthy. He's got an extra week off of rest. I'm still not trying to, hitch my way. I'm still not going to want to face the Eagles at home is all I'm saying.
Do you want to talk about disappointments?
Yeah, I got a couple of them because we can stick in the conference that we're already there.
All right, go for it.
I think it's pretty simple to say that the Cowboys are disappointments just based off of, I'm going to say it because I know that they're
12-5 or something, are they not?
The Cowboys, for the way that they've lost, they're 12-5. I think.
Okay.
Right, this is my disappointment for him. Dak Prescott got his bag, right? He got paid. And he was supposed to be a quarterback that you thought was going to be that top tier style of quarterback. You notice I didn't have him in my rankings.
I agree with those rankings. He's probably all of them.
Yes, this season has been so bad. I think it's the last 7 games. He's thrown like 10 picks.
He's tied with the league lead in interception with 15.
And he didn't play a full season. He played 5 less games.
That's crazy.
My thing is every single year we talk about them being good and they're just like, I guess you can't even really say it's a disappointment, but it's one of those type of things where it's like, look, like, can we get off of the talk of Dallas and like they have such good talent? It's like they have the tools, right? But they don't have a tool belt, right? They're walking around with the handy bag trying to carry it around instead of being proficient because they're not. Their coaching is obviously questionable. As you can tell, obviously, right there, Eamon Report is definitely hitting on that one. The quarterback play has been absolutely terrible in the last 2 months. And what are they getting out of that defense? That defense was supposed to be one of the best defenses in the NFL. They're not showing it. Like Micah Parsons, I haven't heard his name in months, it feels like.
My guy has like a club on his hand, so it's hard for him to dominate. I think Eamon is nailing the point here because we saw him, and we talked at the beginning of the show, like how important we think coaching is in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers, for as good as he's been, over his career, he's been one of the top 2 or 3 guys perennially. And he won 1 Super Bowl with the Packers, right? McCarthy consistently underperforms as a coach. I don't know how he got that job. I know he had a sleepover with Jerry Jones. I'm not even joking. Like, look it up. That's how
they
he
were in
got
their pajamas. Job. Yes, 100%.
Yeah, he had a pajama party. He got the job. For me, they have so much talent on that offense. This is all McCarthy if they underperform. I don't think they lose Saturday, and I don't want to get too far. Iman Report. My bad, Iman.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Are you a podcast or something? Yeah, I think that I don't want to get too far. They're going to win Saturday. It's just down the line. Can they get their shit together? Because it's been kind of rocky at the end.
They better win Saturday, right? I know it's a road game against Tampa, but like they better win or it's blow up everything that's out there, right? Like you're going to see new coaching staff. You're going to potentially see some trades of some of those offensive assets that they have, right? I think it's going to be a reset and rekindle because they have the opportunity to be good. And I say it every year, like death, taxes, and the Cowboys blowing it, right? Like it's just guarantees. And when you had Mike McCarthy to the mix, like you're just making it so much like inevitable. Like the snap from Thanos, like that's essentially the Cowboys saying that they're going to get to the playoffs and absolutely blow it.
Yeah. My disappointment. Do you have anything more on the Cowboys?
No, we can keep going with other teams though.
I was going to say my biggest disappointment was a team that I started the season very high on. I loved watching them. I thought they were going to be the team that kind of surprised everyone. That, the Eagles are the team this year that kind of surprised everyone, came out of nowhere. The Miami Dolphins, my biggest disappointment. And it's not because they finished 9-8. And I think if you told someone before the season, the Dolphins would be finishing 9-8, you'd be like, all right, that makes sense. But they started off, I think it was either 8-3 or 6-3, something like that. And it's ended so poorly. I think they won 1 out of their last 6 games, something like that. And I don't know how to evaluate this team because a lot of their issues stemmed from Tua not being in the lineup, and it's just been a disappointment because when you start off so hot, you have this dynamic offense that leads the league, 2 1,000-yard receivers, and you end up going to the Bills as a 7 seed. You can't be happy.
Yeah, I hate a team that like we just talked about it. Like we're talking about disappointments, but teams that made the playoffs. And injury being a big thing with the Dolphins. But you're right. I think they're getting the disappointment talk for how I talked about LSU, where expectations changed mid-season compared to what we expected when the kickoff happened, right, from week 1. I think we all thought that it was going to be okay. Like we all saw Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and everybody's like, I'm picking them in Madden, right? Like they essentially in Raheem Mostert. So like they had a very fast team. And then you saw the explosiveness where I even said it on this show, like, hey man, this is KC Chiefs 2.0. Like, fuck it. Tyreek's down there somewhere. And if he don't catch it, Waddle's down there somewhere. Just throw it. Right. And that's what Tua was essentially doing. But like he wasn't just throwing it downfield because, like you said, he had the highest QBR in the NFL for a good portion of the season. He had the highest completion percentage in the NFL for a good portion of the season. And his turnover to touchdown rate was really low. So like these are all things that like he's not just blindly throwing to receivers. He was managing games to get them W's. It just by the middle of the season, when they started 8-3 or 7-3, like you were saying, we expected much more from them. And then when everything, the shit hit the fan, it was kind of one of those like, oh man, like they had an opportunity to do something special. But circumstances happen, and they just unfortunately couldn't get themselves out of it.
Yeah, and I think another reason why you say their disappointment is because they were disappointed last year. They missed the playoffs. I think they were 10-7 to finish the season under Flores. They had a nice finish, and they've almost taken a step back in being 9-8. But under Flores, they got to the position they were because their defense was so stout last year. And I don't know what happened to the defense in the second half. They were supposed to have two of the best cornerbacks in the league, was Xavier Howard, and they have not shown up this year. They brought in Bradley Chubb. He's been dinged up and hasn't performed the way they expected. So I don't know where you go from here if you're the Dolphins. You have this question marks at quarterback, not because we doubt his talent, but we're worried about his health.
Mm-hmm.
And just moving forward, I think that's the biggest question. Just a side thought. They have a playoff game coming up this weekend. If you're the Dolphins, D, and they clear, if Tua passes the concussion test, and they give him the little eye flashlight and ask him what his name is and colors and all that bullshit, and he passes, do you put him back out there on the field if you're the organization?
Gotta play him. And the reason why, and this is again, as much as I said that I'm worried about his health, there would have been no sense to win that Jets game, right? Because you're not going to do anything with Skylar Thompson. And essentially, if you're trying to win in the playoffs, like you understand that health is a thing, right? You want to make sure that this kid has a healthy lifestyle after he retires. But if you're going to try to win a game, now is the time to show up for it. And it's the playoffs, right? I'm not saying that they're going to win and then get to the next round and then get to the round after that. We're doing it 1 week at a time, one game at a time, one snap at a time. And he's going to give you the best chance to win. He's just got to start to worry about himself. He's got to take care of that ball. And when people are closing down on him, he has to get rid of it because it's going to impact him significantly.
Yeah, it just worries me because it doesn't seem like he has that skill, like you said. Getting tackled is as a quarterback, there's kind of an art to it. And I wish I could remember the NFL player who said this, but there was some defensive lineman, and I'll look it up afterwards. But basically, he described how he felt tackling Ben Roethlisberger versus how he felt tackling Tom Brady, and you'll see where I'm going with this. And he said when he tackled Ben Roethlisberger, it was like running through glass, like it just shattered. But when he tackled Tom Brady, it was like trying to tackle water. Like the water went down, but you never really like had it. It was just fluid. So like when Tom Brady gets sacked, it's like a wet noodle. And there's something to why he's 45 playing in the NFL still.
Mm-hmm.
There is a way as a quarterback to absorb these hits without doing damage to your body. And I think Tua just needs to learn that craft. I would feel really icky watching Tua play this weekend just because, I mean, we saw this past weekend with DeMar Hamlin, like life is precious. And I know, he might feel fine, but I just worry about the Junior Seaus and some of these guys who went on to live a fucked up life after football because all these brain injuries.
Playmakers make a play, and that's essentially what he's got to get out of the mindset. Don't be the guy to make the play, just make the guy to get to the next play, right? And that's going to be tough for him to get out of that mindset. But hey, he's a ball player. He's going to want to play ball. This is the only playoffs, or I can't even say meaningful games. Playoffs are games that, like, for me, no matter what type of injury, unless it's literally like life threatening, I'm here to show up. Right. If I'm going to get hurt, I'm going to be out. I'm going to be recovering for another 6 months. Right. I might as well put everything out on the line this game just to show my team that I'm here for it. But like, that's just my type of mindset. So if he sits, not a bad thing. But if he's available to play, I don't have a problem with them putting him out there for it. They've already done it twice. You know what I'm saying? And it's like you did it in games that didn't have as much significance. You might as well at least let him try to do his thing in a playoff game.
All right. Do you want to rattle off any more disappointments before we jump into? I was going to ask about the second-year quarterbacks because that was something we opened the NFL season with, and I think it's a good way to kind of circle back and put a bow on that discussion.
Yeah, I mean, just because we have the sounder for it, and this is probably the last time that we're going to play it because it's going to be obviously 2024. Hit me off with it.
Broncos country, let's ride.
Look, we got to just say it. The elephant in the room is that unfortunately Russell Wilson had one of the worst seasons that he possibly could have had coming off of that trade from Seattle. We were able to see his replacement have the best passing season in the history of the Seattle Seahawks.
Pro Bowler.
Geno Smith. I don't care about the damn Pro Bowl. Mac Jones is a Pro Bowler.
No. Well, Mac Jones made it kind of by default because people quit.
That's what I meant by it. Yeah, but
Geno Smith made it legitimately in the first ballot.
I digress. The Pro Bowl to me is it's a popularity contest. It's not necessarily about talent. But essentially, Russell Wilson had look at the beginning of the season. We all thought the Broncos, or at least that division, was going to be a lot tougher than it was.
Broncos, let's ride.
I just wanted to just give me some pauses there. I got you.
Man, so like we all knew that they were going to have a really good offense, or expected to have a really good offense.
Broncos country. Let's ride.
They had a really good defense. They traded away Bradley Chubb, but still have two really good corners, or at least two good secondary players, Justin Simmons and Patrick Surtain Jr.
Broncos country. Let's ride.
But at the end, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm exhausting you with the
You're
Broncos
good.
history. I mean, he exhausts his teammates with that, so this is kind of
exhausted speaking about it. But yeah, man, like let's just stick to getting back on your teammates' side. No more high knees on the plane when you guys are going to France or wherever the hell you were going for a football game. Like, let's just get out there and ball, take the cameras off of Russell Wilson, give away your parking spot. You don't need an office suite. Like, let's just play football, and let's see if they can actually have a better season next year.
Broncos country. Let's ride.
At some point, I don't know how it ended up, at the end of the season, but I read a crazy stat that if after like 9 games or something, if the Broncos offense had scored at least 21 points in every game, they would have been 9-0. That's how bad that offense was and how good that defense was, at least to start the season. I don't know how they ended it because they got shellacked, I think, or they got beat by the Rams really bad on Christmas Eve. Yeah.
Yes.
But they were a great defense to start the year. And our guy,
Broncos country. Let's ride.
not so much.
Not so much at all. But yeah, man. Tough season for them.
So I did want to talk about, before we move into another subject, recapping year 2 quarterbacks, because it was supposed to be a good draft class. I think the first round had 5 guys go out of it, and I kind of wanted to circle back and, we have a little more clarity. Obviously, we think Trevor Lawrence is that dude. Like, he could be a future superstar. Yeah, we agree.
Yeah, and I know I missed on it. I had Lance over him. Just based off of circumstance. But yeah, for me, I got him as QB1 when it comes to this list.
Trey Lance, I mean, it's worth talking about now. I know he hasn't played and it's not his fault, but I am concerned mostly because he came out of South Dakota State, or it was a South or North Dakota. It might have been North Dakota State. And for me, his big thing coming out of the draft was he was inexperienced, right? He was going to need a lot of repetition because I don't think he even played a full season in college. And he was a work in progress. Not playing for 2 years, right? I know you can still be in film room, but it's going to have a negative impact. Even if he has the goods, quote unquote, not being able to get those game reps, he's not going to be ready for NFL speed. And they can't wait for like 4 or 5 years down the line to figure out if this guy's the real deal, right? I know like you've invested a shit ton. You can't move on just yet. You might want to give him 1 more year, but the leash is going to be short now.
Yeah, this one is tough for me because obviously I'm a big fan of Trey Lance just because of his talent. He is in a spot where I am so against a player losing their job due to injury. He may have. And that's just because what we spoke about with good coaching can just let the ship keep sailing. Brock Purdy is showing that like being Mr. Irrelevant does not matter when you play for the San Francisco 49ers. And what you essentially do is you have to think, will this next guy elevate us to something different, right? When they had Jimmy G, they took Trey Lance thinking Garoppolo got us to the Super Bowl. Trey Lance will help us win it, right? And with Garoppolo this season, it was he got injured again, right? And it's who's the replacement? It's Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy got them to a 12-4, right? Or 12-5? What was 13-4? Sorry,
5 games. He won his 5 games as a starter.
What I'm saying is the team still finished 13-4 And if they win one or two playoff games, hear me out. If they win one or two playoff games, is Trey Lance going to get them to the Super Bowl? Because what else is there?
Bro,
Right?
you are making the case right now for Andy Reid never starting Patrick Mahomes because they have Alex Smith. That is what you're doing. I hope you realize that.
Patrick Mahomes wasn't coming off of an injury, or like you said, going two seasons in the NFL with zero experience, and then playing his half of season during COVID in college. There's a huge difference between one of the highest QB talents coming out of a Texas Tech style of offense that fits Andy Reid and Trey Lance that has been injured twice and played a COVID season for him to get his high ranking because of Carson Wentz back in North Dakota.
I guess I'm just a Purdy hater because I think there's a reason why you're drafted at the last pick of the 7th round, right? I think this is a cute story. I think that Shanahan is really maximizing what this kid can do, right? We were talking this whole show how good coaching, especially schematically, can really help a team flourish. The team's not winning because of Brock Purdy. He's doing the right things and he's keeping the ship afloat. I still think it's Trey Lance's job to lose going into next year. I disagree with Eamon. I'm sorry. I keep doing that. You don't spend a 3rd overall pick on a quarterback and then just give it up. And did they have to trade up to get that pick?
They traded 3 picks for him.
Yeah, you don't just say screw it. We have Mr. Irrelevant. So Lance will get the shot next year. He's going to have the full year to figure it out. If he struggles, he's going to keep the job. But if it's a shit show from start to finish, maybe Purdy the following year, it's a real competition or they find somebody else.
Iman, please don't flame my co-partner because he can't say your name right.
I can't read, man. It's not. I just can't read. Period.
What I will say is, again, I'm not for an injury making somebody lose their job. And please, New Englanders that are listening to this, do not throw out like what I'm about to say and say like, oh, it'll never happen again. Look, Drew Bledsoe had that team. It was his offense. He got hurt in a 7th round or 6th round draft pick, and Tom Brady came in and led them to a Super Bowl, right? I'm not saying by any means or stretch of the imagination that Brock Purdy is Tom Brady. What I'm saying is he is doing the job that allows him to keep the job. He is managing that team. He's not the reason why they're losing, but he is helping them win, right? As long as he's not being the reason that they are losing the game. Like I said, what is the next step? Is Trey Lance the answer for them winning a Super Bowl if they are still competing very, very well with what they have? Who's to say that they don't give up that asset to help out Brock Purdy? Right? I'm just throwing out speculations and whatnot, but like I love Trey Lance as a talent, but he just can't stay healthy, and that's huge. The best ability is availability, and he ain't available.
I love that you said that because I'm going to use that against you later on.
Oh, here we go.
I don't want to get stuck on this one. Just really quick, you can make the same case for Jimmy Garoppolo. He's done a fine job keeping the ship a sail. So I think you can make a case for anyone. They're still going to give it a shot. I disagree. So we cover those. I think that we're in agreement. I don't think there's a lot of discussion. Zach Wilson, I think that the only way forward for Zach Wilson, he's not going to be in New York next year. His teammates hate him. The fans hate him. There's no future there. He's basically Ben Simmons in Philadelphia at this point.
Essentially, yes.
It's just not happening. His best situation moving forward is he gets cut and he finds his way onto a team with a veteran quarterback where he has no expectations to play or start and just sit there for a couple of years and get your shit together, because he's done as a starter right now. It's not going to happen as a starter, and no one's going to bring him in to compete for a job.
Yeah, I could. There's a couple of teams that I went through this earlier that I could see him finding his way out there. I could see him finding his way in LA, Vegas. Sorry, finding his way in Vegas with the whole Derek Carr situation. The
problem with Vegas though is, and then that's competing for a starting job. And I don't think
Derek Carr doesn't have that job anymore. Derek Carr is going to get cut this season,
right? But then
we already know about the contract.
You're expecting Zach Wilson to come in and be a starter?
No, he's going to be competing for whatever they do with that position. I would say either Vegas or at least
I like that one.
But
I'm in.
if he
I'm in.
goes
You're right.
there, if
Kansas
he
City.
goes
I
to
like that.
Kansas City, he's just sitting. He's
But
essentially sitting.
that's what I'm saying. Like he needs to go to a place where there's no expectations for him to even play, just to relax, learn, and then maybe 2 or 3 years down the line, you can either be a serviceable backup, or maybe you can go somewhere else and kind of take what you've learned, like the Geno Smith. He is Geno Smith. Maybe that's his best case scenario, is being Geno Smith in the future.
I mean, I'm still like, if you're gonna say that a team's gonna find a way to get Trey Lance on the field because they wasted a draft pick for him, like another team's gonna find a way to get Zach Wilson on the field because of his talent. He's a first round talent. Like that's what they're going to want out of him. I don't see him if he goes. I mean, yeah, is that a good way for him to just sit and learn the offense and like find a way to get another job somewhere else? Maybe, but like, what is that doing for Patrick Mahomes to sit back and be like, why do we even have this motherfucker in my offense? Like, what? I don't need him here for it.
You know who the backup is in Kansas City right now?
Absolutely. No, I don't know. I remember that it was the kid from Michigan a couple of years ago.
Chad Henne is the backup.
Yeah.
The role of backup at Kansas City is to do absolutely nothing. And Zach needs that in his life right now. And just the difference between Zach Wilson and Trey Lance is Zach Wilson's had the opportunity to show that he's not going to cut it in the NFL. Trey Lance hasn't had the opportunity yet. So there's more unknown, which means teams are going to be more willing to give it a shot.
I feel you on that one. I know that we had talked about, at least if we're going off of the way that we did the list at the beginning of the season, I put all three of these quarterbacks together in the same list. And I said that Zach Wilson was going to be elevated the highest out of all of them, and he wasn't. But if you think about where we're at right now, 3, 4, and 5 are essentially the same thing. Zach Wilson, Davis Mills, and Mac Jones. They're all. Listen, hear me out on this. Hear me out with what I'm saying, right? Mills is replaceable. Wilson is replaceable. Jones is a season away from being replaceable.
You're such a hater of the Patriots.
I don't understand why people think that Mac Jones is the answer. He hasn't been. He will never be. And we saw how different that offense was when Golden Boy went to Vegas. Belichick isn't going to find another coach to get him to elevate his game. He can't throw outside the numbers. He can't throw the ball past 30, 40 yards. Like everything has to be perfect for him to play in New England, and it's not. I'm sorry.
Mac Jones is in a tier, but above those two clowns and below everyone else.
Replaceable, but he still has another year.
Mac Jones is a serviceable starting quarterback. That doesn't mean he's good. Doesn't mean he's bad. He is serviceable. He's probably, if you want to do a ranking, he's probably around 20, which means he's a back end starter in the league. Zach Wilson and Davis Mills are absolutely going forward backups for life.
Said that.
Mac Jones is a player that he's not going to win you a Super Bowl probably, but he is serviceable. If you put Mac Jones, let me ask you this. If you put Mac Jones in, I don't know, Shanahan's offense in San Francisco, I guarantee you he's better than Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo.
Absolutely not. And you want to know why? Because we said that he was in the best situation by going to the best coach of all time. We said that he was, and what happened? The first year that they had them, they squeaked into the playoffs, right? Last year, they squeaked into the playoffs.
He Pro Bowl.
And
he's a Pro Bowler.
For those of you that you get to watch on Twitch, you'll know why we went silent for a second. And it wasn't because I was ready to answer or there was some type of Wi-Fi connection problem. No, it's because I was staring at the camera as to why you just said that Mac Jones is a Pro Bowl quarterback. Let me finish my statement before you say something absolutely atrocious. Like that just ruined my whole moment that you just said that. What I mean by it is they had Mac Jones, right? We thought that he was that guy to help them. The best coach of all time. They squeaked into the playoffs last year. Then he has a full season this year, and they finished with a record below 500. I want to know where you're saying how him going to the 49ers is going to get him a better place. Like, I don't understand that, where he has the best, one of statistically the best defenses in the NFL, and we just need you to just give us, 14 to 20 points output, and he can't do that.
Well, the problem is that the guys helping him out are Judge Joe Brown and Matt Patricia, who has a pencil in his ear and a laminated Waffle House menu. That's where the problem lies. Also, have you seen their skill positions? They are bad. I mean, running backs are solid, like the running backs. Bill Belichick screwed up with getting those tight ends. The wide receivers are a disaster. I don't know what you want him to do. Like, he's looked good and bad at times. He's serviceable.
He's looked awful at times. Don't say just bad. He's looked awful at times. And look, again, you might hear the Patriot hater come out of me. What I'm
he's good. And
always next year. Yeah, I have a friend that always says Miami will be back next year, right? I essentially will start hearing everybody saying New England, just wait till next year, right? I don't want to hear this shit every single time we start talking about the Patriots. We'll just wait till next year, because guess what? It's always going to be next year, never this year for them, unfortunately. That roller coaster has come to the end of the tracks. You guys will I'm not going to go off on a tangent.
But they are what we thought they were.
Exactly. Thank you. That's exactly what I needed to end that.
All right, last one, the most intriguing one, and then we'll have to. We're going to be a 5-hour podcast today. Justin Fields.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to do with him. Like, he's been fantastic on the ground. We've talked before about the Bears' offense as far as skill positions being a joke. The running backs are solid.
Mm-hmm.
They got a good run game. The Bears have solidified pick number 1, so they have the balls in their court, right? And we've talked before about how this quarterback class is supposed to be pretty intriguing. I think if you're the Bears, you probably try to take another organization hostage and get 3 first-round picks and roll it out with Fields, because I think Fields has shown enough that you want to, stick with him and build an offense around him. But I can see it might be tempting to take like the guy at number 1 that you feel 100% about. Like, what do you? First of all, Fields for you, Fields compared to the other year 2 quarterbacks, you have him guessing second.
Yes. If we're going tier wise, he's QB1, meaning like he's the guy. He's not the best quarterback. I'm saying he's the starter. He's not replaced. He's going to be the guy that's going to be at that location for a very long time.
And you're in agreement with me that you try to ransom that pick.
You get as much. I think if you're the Bears, I think you give up on the possibility of a dynamic lineman, defensive wise, or dynamic linebacker to get multiple picks. Find your Miami Dolphins, right? A team that can get you 2 to 3 first rounders and a second rounder early. Just find that, because that in depth wise is going to help you out more than just swinging for the fences and getting, I think like the top tier guy right now is Will Anderson, linebacker out of Alabama. Good talent, right? I'm not saying that that he can't be that guy, but I'm pretty sure that the team right now has a good linebacker. So like, you're just getting another one, or you can get a tackle that can help him out, because he definitely needs an offensive lineman, a wide receiver, not top 10 or anything like that, but like a wide receiver that can potentially help you out. This is the kid out of TCU that's essentially like a smaller Megatron. He's like 6'5", 220. Maybe you get something like that, right? And then potentially you get him a security blanket, a second round tight end, somebody that he can trust. Cole Kmet is okay, but we saw him miss time this year. So like, you have the ability to, like you said, hold that number 1 pick hostage and try to get multiple assets to help out the team, as opposed to swinging the fences and trying to get that one superstar.
So like, just looking at the standings, I'm just thinking like realistic team that would trade up. I think maybe Houston says, screw it, we'll just take the second best quarterback at number 2 and not mortgage the franchise. I find the 4th team interesting.
The Texans aren't going to trade for quarterback. They're going to get the number 1 quarterback anyway.
Unless they're concerned someone will jump up to number 1 and trade with.
Oh, to trade. Okay. I thought you were saying it like the Bears were going to trade. I mean, we're going to draft. But yeah, I see what you're saying. My bad.
I think the Bears are going to try to find a suitor. And I'm just looking at the list of who is realistically in play to make the move. Number 4. The 4th worst team is intriguing, in the Colts. I don't know what their draft capital is like. I don't recall them trading a bunch of first-round picks. I could see the Colts. I like I'm in with Carolina. They've been in quarterback hell for a couple years.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty far back, though.
Yeah, that's a tough trade up.
If we're going that far back, I'm actually maybe looking at maybe the Jets potentially. But like I said, if you're going to trade up from 8 to 10, you're gonna have to sell everything, right? I don't think we've seen that aggressive of a move in the past. I've seen 4 to 1, 5 to 1, but just in that 1 to 5 range, the only one that makes sense is the Colts, because Arizona's gonna stick with Kyler Murray. The Rams don't have draft capital. Denver doesn't have draft capital. Maybe Vegas at 7, but it's interesting. It'll be interesting. But we both agree, right? Fields is the guy. You're going to stick with him and build this thing around him.
Yeah, I think he's got the talent. I want to say curious. I'm trying to think. I'm intrigued to see how he can be similar to a Jalen Hurts with a number one, because everybody, I don't know why the media does this, but everybody is all blown away by his running ability. He was a pocket passer his entire career. He literally did not just run at Ohio State. He wasn't, I don't even think he was a dual threat quarterback coming out of high school. He was considered just a throwing quarterback. But he's in a situation where he's running for his fucking life, and he's just going to show his athleticism, right? But like, I can vividly remember a pass that he threw to Chris Olave in the national championship that was like a 70-yard fucking bomb on a dime. Like, and he has that. Granted, it's college, it's not the NFL, but he has the talent to sit in the pocket and just dice people away. He's just running for his life because the Rams are, I mean, I just read the Rams, but the Bears are so bad. But I think if he gets surrounded by, I'm saying, a security blanket at tight end, a tackle on either side, or a number one wide receiver, you're going to see a big jump the same way we saw Jalen Hurts jump when he got AJ Brown.
I want to do the stats segment, but we have to be like rat-tat-tat through it because we are. I mean, I could sit here all night, but I know you got stuff to do, right? We got
yeah.
I'll explain the next segment when we get in there. All right, so we haven't done this in a while. It's basically a very stat-oriented segment. I'm going to give Darian a stat. And I'm going to ask him, is this anything? So he's going to analyze, can you take something from this? Is it meaningful, or is it just some bullshit number I'm throwing out?
Absolutely.
As the saying goes, numbers never lie. Let's dive into the statistics and ask the question, is this anything?
I do like the funky music on this. This is why I brought it back. All right, let's see. Rat-tat-tat. The first one I got for you. Tom Brady this year set the single season completion record for number of completions at 490. Is this anything?
Absolutely not, because what are the average passing yards for it? If it's all dink and dunk passes to running backs, then why does it matter?
Yeah, exactly. Most of his passes were, I think, below 5 yards.
Yeah.
He had one of the lowest air yard ratings this year, so it's a lot of dink and dunks. All right, that was an easy one.
Yeah, his average yards per pass is 6.4 yards.
Yeah, I thought this one was interesting. Kirk Cousins, super controversial quarterback. People have lots of opinions on him. He finished, first of all, Pro Bowler, Kirk Cousins. He finished the season 23rd ranked in QBR. That puts him behind the likes of Kenny Pickett, Matt Stafford, and Andy Dalton, all with the higher QBR in the season. I don't know how he's a Pro Bowler. Pro Bowlers, am I right? But Kirk Cousins finished first in the league in game-winning drive stat with 8 total. The second place person with game-winning drives only had 5. Is this anything? Do you take anything from this?
No, I don't, because the first part was the QB. No, you actually asked 2 questions. So like it's yes and no. Sorry.
So he was actually his overall body of work isn't that great. He's 23rd in QBR as a whole, but he has 8 game-winning drives, which means he led the team. He was a quarterback for 8 comebacks or 8 drives that ended up by winning the team the game.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting, I guess. I don't know if it's anything, but it's interesting. He's been good in clutch, maybe? He's clutch time.
Is it something for his QBR? Yes, because it shows that he has untimely interceptions because certain situations are calculated into QBR. It's not just statistics, it's situations on the field. Is his overall record in one possession games something? No,
it's good.
Because it's absolutely nothing, because I'm not going to give him props for it. I think it's a terrible thing that he has this, because we've ripped off the teams that he beat with one possession games, and I'll do it really quickly for you. Lions, Okay, but you got to remember where they were
They're
midseason.
bad.
The Saints, not good. I'm a Saints fan, not good. The Dolphins, no Tua, not good. The Cardinals, not good. The Commanders, not good. They got blown out by the Cowboys. The Patriots, not good. The Jets, not good. These are all teams that didn't make the playoffs that they won by that game-winning drive. And how a game-winning drive is calculated for those that don't listen, if the Jets are winning 20-17 with 14 minutes and 59 seconds on the clock, and the Vikings have the ball and score with 10 minutes left, and then the Jets don't score again, that's considered a game-winning drive. So don't let those things, those numbers be like a big thing for you. Yeah, I know, bro. Like, don't do that to me.
Opposite conflicting stats to see if I could get you to bite. But to me, it's like he's been pretty bad, but they've been lucky with close games. That's what you can extrapolate from that. All right, I cut this down. I got two more. This one is interesting. We talked earlier today about Cliff Kingsbury, how he should have been fired. This is the right time. Here's an interesting one. Cliff Kingsbury with the Arizona Cardinals has a career record of 28 wins, 37 losses, 1 tie. So it's 28 wins, 37 and 1. Zach Taylor, head coach of the Bengals, who just went to the Super Bowl, and they're 12-5 now, 13. Yeah, no, they're actually 12-4 because they called the game. So Zach Taylor, who everyone loves the Bengals, his career record, 28, 37 and 1. Almost identical career records. Is this anything?
I don't know how to answer this question.
It's weird.
I say it's something because they're opposites. Even though they're similar, they're opposites. Zach Taylor had a very terrible record to start, and he's showing his wins now. And Cliff Kingsbury had a great start, right, with Kyler and everybody. And then Call of Duty started releasing, and then they went the opposite, and they started losing games. So they're meeting in the middle with their records, but they're telling two completely different stories, where one of them started hot, the other one started absolutely terrible, got Jerry Burrow, Super Bowl, conference championships, all that. The other one was, I got, Kyler Murray. The league didn't know what to do with the 5'10", I almost said the wrong word, 5'10" infant runner. And then they started figuring stuff out, and Call of Duty started releasing games. So, yes, now they're on the back end of losing everything.
I was just trying to make a case for maybe Cliff Kingsbury was fired too early. They have the same record, and one's thought of as a great coach. The other one is Cliff Kingsbury.
Yep, you almost got me again, but keep trying.
Do you want me should I get into the Lamar Jackson one, or should I save that? Lamar Jackson has missed 30% of his games over the past 2 seasons. Is this anything, D?
Yes, it is, because I won't lie to you. Availability, the best ability is availability. He's missing in significant areas too. It's usually late games in the season, which is tough. So he's coming out, even in his MVP season, he came out really hot, and then he got hurt towards the playoffs. He still finished. He still played the season. He still played the games, but he still got hurt. And then with the last 2 seasons, we've seen it when the Ravens are needing him at most. I still think he's showing his value because that team is in shambles when he's not there. But he's showing that, hey, man, like, you got to figure out a way to stay on the field because your team needs you. I'm against, people saying like it's his running style, because I'm seeing a quarterback thriving in Buffalo that's doing the exact same thing that, Lamar Jackson is doing. One of them has an MVP. The other one, I'm hoping that he can find a way to get an MVP and possibly a Super Bowl. But I think that one of them has a circumstance where he got injured. The other one hasn't. So I don't think they need to change their styles by any means.
One of them looks like a middle linebacker. The other one looks like a
Lamar Jackson is not a small guy. I think there's a misconception that people think that
he's not small, but he's
like 6'4", 230.
No, he's listed at like 215. I think he's 6'2", 215. Look it up. Let me know what it is.
All right. Maybe I may have, edited the stats.
No,
I got it right there. 6'2", 230, NFL.com.
He is not 230.
6'2", 230. Billing weight, yes.
Maybe since he's been sitting home eating Cheetos, he ain't 230.
If you look at my UMass Dartmouth, webpage, I was 5'10", 210. So, like, I'm saying, like, if it says he's 6'4", 230, I'm going he's 6'4", 230.
But just to put a bow on this Lamar Jackson, you said earlier the best ability is availability, and you stand by that point. If you are the Ravens GM, what are you doing right now?
You're franchising him twice.
I know you were against it at the beginning of the season, but like it seems like
I'm
the
not
right
saying
move.
it's right. I just know that this is going to happen,
No,
and
no.
I don't.
If you are the GM,
Me?
I don't care what they're going to do. What would you do?
Oh, me
Knowing
personally?
what you know now about his availability, about how he's dipped off since his MVP season, what are you doing?
I'm signing him because I need that quarterback. He didn't play the last 2 games because of something that happened in the offseason.
I need a little more detail. Are you giving him like the same contract Deshaun Watson got, like that absurd guaranteed money? Because that's what he wants. Like I'm sure he wants to be.
Right.
I'm sure they all want to sign him long term, but it's about the actual dollar figures.
Mhm.
Do you think that he should get like I don't know what it's like, almost 40 million guaranteed a year? Because that's a lot of money to put on someone that you can't count on to be there at the end of the season. And he's 26 right now.
Just because of the injury, no.
That's fair.
Yeah, I hate saying that. I only say this because of I don't think I think he's hurt. I don't think he's injured. And I think he didn't play the last 2 to 3 games of the season because of what happened in the offseason. I don't think the injury is as significant as missing 5 games would think, he's been out for, a quarter of the season. I think majority of it was, look, man, I'm not going to risk it if you guys aren't going to pay me.
Fair enough. All right, let's jump. I want to finish it off. We want to finish off by talking about the playoff teams, right? And kind of what our confidence is in each playoff team to actually make a run.
Mhm.
Before we get to that, I don't even want you to answer is this anything. My last stat I had was that the 49ers, everyone's beloved 49ers and Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, everyone loves, they have by far the easiest strength of schedule in all the NFL. I wrote down 50% easier by the metrics than everybody else. So I don't know. I mean, there might be something to Brock Purdy. It also might be circumstantial.
Strength of schedule is such a dumb stat in the NFL. Any team can be beat. It's any given Sunday, bro.
I mean, when you're playing, like if you were the Bucks and you're playing the trash teams in the NFC South versus an actual good division, don't tell me they're the same.
You don't have to tell me about the NFC
see
South,
that.
bro. Just move on to your next point, bro.
I feel like in the
Eyes of
starting
the
time.
angel. No, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, after the Angel, of course. We should just pick a couple teams that we want to talk about as far as our confidence in
Mhm.
for the playoffs. Do you feel comfortable going first and picking one?
Yeah, because I got a game that comes right off the top. I am
Go for it.
confident in Jacksonville beating the crap out of the Chargers. I don't want to. I thought you were going to give me the cheer. Sorry.
I was trying to get to that, but you were ready to run right through me.
Go ahead.
Do you feel confident? So I like that the pick for your confidence in Jacksonville. Do you feel? I was worried. I was thinking more like macro.
Mhm.
Like, do you feel confident in the Jaguars after that game though, as a team?
I think circumstance could be a thing, and Doug Peterson finds ways to do stuff. This is a very, very similar team to
Don't
the
say it.
Eagles. It
Don't
is a
say
very similar team to that Eagles championship team. I'm not saying that Trevor Lawrence is going to do the Nick Foles and all of a sudden become the Super Bowl MVP. But what I am saying is that they are running the ball very well. They're playing really good defense, and their quarterback is getting hot at the right time. So that leads to how Eli Manning won his Super Bowl, right? How Nick Foles won his Super Bowl. All it takes is circumstances. And when you're riding into the playoffs and you are a home team for week 1 of the playoffs, that is a huge benefit to get confidence to move on to potentially play the Bengals or the Bills.
Yeah, and just to kind of give some detail, the Chargers, Jaguars, right now the Lions, 1 point. Chargers are favored by 1 point.
Mm-hmm.
So Vegas thinks it's going to be tight. They give the edge to the Chargers, even though it's at Jacksonville. I like that pick, right? Because we talked about how we liked the Lions. If they made the playoffs, just because if you get hot at the right time, you never know what can happen. And Jacksonville has really put it together the past couple weeks. Granted, dude, I'm less inclined to be with you after the Saturday night game because they are one Josh Dobbs fumble from not being in the playoffs. But I mean, I love the team. I'm hoping the best for them, but we'll see how that one goes. For me, I just want to do I feel confident or non-confident in this team? I actually feel, I'm going to say I feel confident in them winning this game, but I don't feel confident in them as far as like being a contender. And that's the Giants. I think I got the Giants actually because they're playing the Vikings, and we just talked about Kirk Cousins.
Mhm.
We talked about the record of one possession games and how they've been the beneficiary of a lot of nice bounces. The Giants did just play the Vikings, and I actually think they went to overtime. The Vikings got the best of them, but I love this Giants team. I don't feel confident in Kirk Cousins. I think that the Vikings are a little fraudy, but I feel like you know what I think about when I think about the Vikings and the Giants.
What?
This game, do it with me.
The Spider-Man? Huh.
Spider-Man meme, because they're both the masters of the one possession game. Whoever wins that game, they're not getting past the next round.
No, they get the doors blown off of them.
Yeah.
Just a quick one. I don't know if we're going to do any more of these, but just I wish they didn't get rid of the bye week for the 2 seed, because essentially the winner of the Cowboys Bucks game, one of the worst matchups that there could possibly be in the playoffs right now. Both of those teams are absolutely terrible. They should have just given the 49ers the bye for the next week. Let the Vikings and Giants play, and let the Seahawks play somebody else, a random team that should have made the playoffs. None of the Cowboys or the Buccaneers matchup should be like a next round matchup. I absolutely despise the fact that that's a playoff matchup right now. The worst division in football got an under 500 team there, and the Cowboys, like, just incredible.
You have the Cowboys winning that game, right?
I do have the Cowboys winning on the road, yes.
I hate that they made that game the night game on Monday, because if you've watched any of the Buccaneers games, you must love torture. That offense is so constipated, man. Although they had that outburst.
Yeah, I went off on it last week. Yeah, I went off last week saying Brady's back. Brady is that guy. Like, you don't want to play them in the playoffs. And then they went out and laid an egg against the goddamn Falcons. Like, Desmond Ridder, rookie quarterback. So I was wrong. Yeah. I've been wrong once before, so I guess it can happen.
I appreciate you admitting. Just really quick, the team I feel the most confidence in, and I think they'll be a Super Bowl champion, is the Philadelphia Eagles. I got Philly. At least I'll give myself the yay. At least making it to the conference championship game. Listen, I know I'm in, and someone else was hating on it a little earlier, but I know they had a tough ending to the season. I'm blaming it all on Minshew. I have my scapegoat. They've had one of the most dominating teams throughout most of the season. They're very deep. They're getting some of their offensive linemen back, and I think just having that bye week helps a ton. Not only do you have to you avoid maybe getting caught in the first round, but anyone knows football's an extremely brutal game.
Mm-hmm.
And you see guys go out there and play, and everyone's like, oh yeah, no, he's fine, he's out there. No, every guy in the field is playing at like 60-70%, and having that 1 week to just rest your body and get a little bit closer to 100% is going to help them tremendously in their first game. So I'm feeling good in the Eagles. I'm probably most confident in the Eagles, and maybe tied with them are the Chiefs. That might be could that be a possible Super Bowl? Yeah, that might be my Super Bowl matchup.
If we're gonna go Super Bowl matchups just because of macro, I think however this game goes on Saturday between the Ravens and Bengals is going to determine the AFC championship. Meaning, if it's a close game for the Bengals, I think they lose to either the Chiefs or Buffalo. But if the Bengals come out and absolutely destroy the Ravens because they're pissed off that they got in a very bad situation, right? Like, we understand Ernie and everything that happened with, DeMar Hamlin. I think the Bengals got the shit end of the stick when it comes to the NFL seeding. And if they play pissed off and blow out the Ravens, they are going to annihilate the Bills. And we found Superman's kryptonite. Mahomes, for some reason, just can't beat Burrow. I think that team could be representing the AFC in the Super Bowl again, and it would be the Philadelphia Eagles on the other side. If the way that this game goes, I think a lot determines on this game.
Nice. I want to ask your opinion on this, because I've heard this said on other podcasts. Can you pinpoint what makes Burrow special? Like, does he have the tremendous arm strength or the running ability or the accuracy? There's not
No.
like one thing. Someone's like, he's kind of like Brady in that aspect where there's not one thing that you can point at Brady over his career, like he has the best arm or he is this best. They just somehow have
Have
this thing.
it.
I don't know what it is.
And I hate the comparison, but it's the
It's the
best
closest one you got.
comparison. Yeah, it's because he just has a way of winning, and it's the confidence of if something happens, you fear, oh shit, he's just gonna come back like pissed off, but you're not gonna see it. You're just going to like you're gonna see it happen, but you're not gonna see his emotion change. You didn't see other than him throwing tablets later in his career, like you didn't notice like he was pissed off. You just had him sit there, just like against the Falcons in the Super Bowl. The clip that everybody knows of him on the bench, head down, you're like, fuck, something's about to happen.
It's
Essentially,
brewing.
yeah, like you start to get that right now with the Burrow effect, where like you're not worried about his arm, you're not worried about his legs. It's just you expect him to just be a winner in winning situations.
All right, real quick, we're going to jump to our closing takes, but do you have anything else you want to throw out for the season, the playoff teams? And did you tell me your Super Bowl prediction?
I did. I said Bengals, Philly.
Okay. All right, nice.
I think that, yeah, I think we're good on that one.
All right, we're going to get into our last segment right now. It's probably our most favorite, personally, our two favorite segment because we get to dance and go crazy to some music. But before we get there, I just want to shout out to all y'all watching live. Really good participation today. Appreciate all of y'all. I'm in Hip Hop Anonymous, some of the other folks in the chat. When you guys are communicating with us, throwing out some comments, it makes this more fun for us to know you're listening. So just all the love to all you guys watching live. And, if you want to get the whole show, you only caught part of it, check out the podcast as well. All right, let's get into it.
The show is coming to an end. But first, it's time to get to anything we've missed. It's closing time. 1 segment, 2 takes. Now go.
All right, so this is the part of the show where we, it's a long show, and sometimes we don't get our chance to say whatever we want. It's the last chance for us to give our last takes of the day. I'm going to take the ball first because, D, you always have something really good at the end. Except last week was kind of somber at your closing take.
I'm sorry, man.
It's all good. I did want to get quick question because we didn't touch on this. We talked all NFL stuff. We didn't talk awards. I feel like this year's Coach of the Year selection is kind of tricky. I was trying to figure out who deserves it. I low-key just want to give it to Mike Tomlin for being for taking Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky to 9-8. But shout out to Shanahan because he's the master, the magician, getting all these quarterbacks and getting to the finish line. Shanahan, yeah.
Yeah, if it's not Shanahan, then I'm thinking Dan Campbell, just because of the situation. I know that you can't really give it to a team that didn't make the playoffs, but you got to remember the situations that they were in and where they were 2 years ago. But Shanahan is most likely to run away with it because of the revolving door at quarterback, and they still continue to keep winning.
Do you think Sirianni deserves some consideration, the head coach of the Eagles?
Yes, but oddly enough, you don't typically see teams with the best record in the NFL get coach of the year. I don't know why, but it's essentially like they're just saying, well, they're the best team. Like they deserved it. They're just the best team. It's not really the coach. But yeah, I wouldn't say that it's a bad thing if he gets it, but you usually get that like third or fourth seed team that coach that gets the award over the number one seed.
Yeah, I think it's either Sirianni or Shanahan. Another two shout-outs that I think deserve consideration. There'll be like others receiving votes. Pete Carroll, like we all thought the Seahawks were going to be a dumpster fire. We all thought Geno Smith was a career backup, washed-up quarterback. And again, we said at the top of the show, coaching matters, and clearly, he's doing some right stuff. And then lastly, Dayball and the Giants making Danny Dimes look more like Danny Quarters. So. The floor is yours. I know it was a bad attempt at a joke. Yeah, I actually have that. I should give that to myself for being such a clown. But anyways, D, the floor is yours. What do you got for us?
Yeah, nothing too crazy other than the fact that, I love my SEC. We talked college football, but just basically the draft. And just because it's live right now, for all of those that think, myself included, that it was going to be a close game, or more importantly, you thought that, the underdog story was going to be a thing. Congratulations to TCU kicking out anybody such as Oregon, Boise State, the Utahs, the Kansas States, the Washingtons. Any of those second-tier teams, you will most likely no longer be invited to the college football playoff. 38-7 at half is an atrocity, unfortunately. Georgia is considered a dynasty right now, 2 national championships back-to-back. Stetson Bennett is going to be a 35-year-old graduating this year, and they're going to be one of the best teams in the NCAA next year as well. So I hate to see it. I didn't want it to be a blowout. I wanted it to be close. Kudos to those that took the over or the spread, however you guys do your betting. But yeah, man, unfortunately, TCU just ruined it for any of those mid-tier teams.
I like it, man. I can go to bed now. I don't have to watch this.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's a blowout now. I can just go kick on some 2K. I just hated it because, you said it. Bama should have been there. It would have been a better game. If this were for just about the game itself, then yeah, you do that. But TCU deserved to be there based off of their body of work. It just sucks that they have never played a team like this before. And I said it, earlier today when I was walking down the stairs. I was like, I don't even think it's going to be it's not going to be initially a blowout. I think it's going to be the talent in the third or fourth quarter that starts to take over it. No, they just came out right away and was just like, we're not going to let this be a fucking close game. Ben was like, I don't care about you guys. We're not going to let you stick around. So 38-7 at halftime. Hopefully any of those other teams can do something next year, but I don't expect it to happen anymore, at least until we break it off to 8 teams now.
Well, I'd like to be the first podcast to congratulate the back-to-back national champions, Georgia Bulldogs.
Absolutely.
I can't wait for them to TCU to have a 38-point comeback and that be wrong. That'd be great. Anywho, all right.
Not a fucking chance, bro.
Like I said earlier, before we did the closing takes, we do really appreciate you guys all watching. We would do this if no one was watching, but it makes it more worthwhile. We love to kind of be here with you guys because, like we say, we're the podcast of the people. You're just as much as part of the show as we are. So love and appreciation for all of y'all.
And more importantly, we did this when there wasn't anybody watching. So we enjoy even more when there's people watching. As we say, every time we're dipping out of here, make sure y'all hit us up on the newly created Facebook. Before I hit that, newly created Facebook page, the YouTube channel, hit us up on Twitch, hit us up on Twitter, all the social media platforms that you guys can find us. And as we say, when we are dipping out, please, y'all take care of y'all mentals. Y'all take care of y'all physicals. Take care of y'all bread, y'all chicken, y'all children. All that, man. Peace, love, hair grease. We'll catch you on the rebound, homie.